us right now?
If the ocean could talk, she would tell us that she is not a dumping ground for everything. And if the ocean right by Ghana could talk, she would tell us that her babies are being destroyed because of the impacts of Galamsey in her, because all our rivers drain into the ocean. All the rivers we talk about when we talk about Galamsey, the Pra, the Ankobra, the Tano, even though it drains eventually in La Côte d'Ivoire, are all sending contaminated water, so much soil into our oceans. Our plastics are moving from our cities and towns into our oceans, and I'm sure, and I know that the ocean right by us in the Gulf of Guinea is crying tears, yes.
That's very serious, very serious. And I'm sure that in your line of work where you are exposed to these stats and figures, you must be, terrified for planet Earth.
Oh, yes, indeed. In fact, not just terrified, but extremely worried for planet Earth as in general, because, sometimes we just think of it as, oh, it's far removed from us. People are in the urban areas, or you see people when it's raining, they're like, oh, it's raining. Come pour the trash out. Let's just pour it so the water takes it somewhere.
That's right.
Where is the runoff sending all the water with the trash to? And it ends up in the ocean, of course, and we do suffer the effects all the time. It's not just the visible things you see, like, okay, the fishermen are bringing plastics when they throw their nets and things like that, but it's the effects of the microplastics on the fish that we eat. It's the effects of the toxins, in the Ghanaian case, the toxins, the heavy metals, all washing out into the oceans, into the fish that we may buy and take in, is the effect that because of how much muddy water, I'm just putting it in layman's terms,
right?
What we call sediment-laden discharge, going out into the ocean. And so many years ago, our estuaries, which is where our rivers go into the ocean or where they meet the sea, they are actually the nursery grounds for a lot of marine species. So your grouper that you love, your cassava fish that you like, your snapper, even the sardinellas, the herrings, and the anchovies, a lot of them actually move into our coastal lagoons and estuaries to breed. And as we are talking right now, the Ankobra used to be a very major, the Ankobra estuary was a very major breeding ground for marine species, same as for the pra and others. Unfortunately, we've lost them as these important ecological sites just because they've largely been destroyed by the harmful effects of illegal mining. So it's closer to us than we think, actually. It's much closer to us than we think. The danger is very real.
Because we know that the ocean covers, over 70% of Earth.
Of the Earth, yeah, of the planet. Yes.
And yes, we treat it like a dustbin. What is one shocking stat about the ocean or freshwater pollution that would make anyone rethink how they treat water?
Okay, so I would want to be biblical.
Sure.
In the book of Ecclesiastes, and pardon me, I've forgotten the verse, but it says that all rivers run into the sea, and yet the sea is not full. And everything is one course, one eternal round. Okay. So the water on earth is literally not going anywhere. If you follow the cycle of water, it starts from land, goes to the ocean, it evaporates, and then the winds bring it back to earth and it falls, and the cycle repeats itself. But with what we are doing as humans and with climate change effects and all that, we're realizing that the quality of fresh water we have on earth has reduced, largely due to the activities of man. We are seeing higher climate change effects where we used to have the storm surges, or what people report in the news as tidal waves. their effects have gone up. The magnitude of these waves and their destruction has gone up. So many habitats are being destroyed, and we have less water available for us to use for, our various activities. The life forms, the plants and animals also have less, should I say, clean water to use. And that is affecting the general ecological health of the planet very, very adversely in adverse terms. Yes.
Very, very worrying indeed. So, in fact, you say some of the natural, what we would think are natural disasters, are really fueled by our actions and inactions day in and day out.
Oh, yes, indeed. So since it's World Earth Day, let me just give a typical example. For example, let's talk about flooding, okay?
Right.
So along our coastlines, our mangroves are there, they exist, and one important role they play is carbon sequestration, that is trapping carbon so that we don't have a lot of these greenhouse emissions. They also serve as a barrier for storm surges and reducing the rates of erosion. Unfortunately, we are losing a lot of mangroves due to pollution. We are also losing a lot of them, of course, due to the use of wetlands. Even in Ghana, we have these issues. We see where people are building in designated Ramsar sites.
That's right.
People are building, for example, if you take the Peshi Lagoon, let me say 10 to 15 years ago, the water was very clear. There were mangroves all around. But in recent years, we see so many high-rise, expensive developments going up in areas that were supposed to be buffers, that were supposed to catch excess rainwater and channel them into the oceans. If we look at the new trend of building, if we look at Accra now, for example, which is a concrete jungle, we have all the floors being paved so that when it rains, instead of the water draining downwards through the soil, what we call percolation, it now has to run off on all these paved compounds, paved surfaces, so much that you now have a lot of water running off and trying to enter very small channels. And when that happens, so much water backs up, and then we get the flooding issues. So as we are evolving and modernizing ourselves in quotation marks, we need to be sure that we are using environmentally friendly, structures or developments, because in our quest for modernity, given the kind of environment in which we live in, we are just making things worse for ourselves. All the glass windows we have, a lot of our structures are not designed with green thinking or green innovations in mind. So
that's right
now everyone is building and it's so much glass. You go into Accra, I'm sorry, Accra people, it's not intentional, but you have so much heat being reflected, and this is not what we want for our country. We need more green spaces. At least if everyone will build or have their compound and have some space for greenery, it will go a long way into helping to make the world a better place.
Certainly, but Doc, people say, well, how will they know that I have arrived if my entire building is not encased in glass and tile? They want people
your
to
compound is tiled. Right now you see people tiling their driveways.
Yes.
The whole house is tiled
because
up,
they have arrived, Doc. Hey. They have arrived, though. They don't want to hear anything about neem tree, and it's all about glass and tile. But you say all of this is contributing to that immense heat that we feel in the capital. And you're completely forgiven for singling out the Greater Accra region. We're told that over, 70% of Greater Accra is concrete, and we are simply not built up. We're not making provision for the greenery that we so need. I want to bring it back to Galamsey, because we know it's still a very, very, very serious canker, destroying our water bodies and all of that. Now, is there any way that water bodies can naturally recover from the damage caused by Galamsey, or is it a lost cause unless we act?
Well, this question is a big question. When we look at what our remediation experts are saying, and from what we also know, if we should stop Galamsey, say today we wake up and there's a magic wand and Galamsey ends, our waters are not going to return to their pristine conditions overnight. This is simply because we have scored so much of the ground, we have so much sediment, and they have what we call residence time in our water bodies. It takes time for them to move from one point to the other. And so that change will not be seen overnight. So if we should, by a big miracle, abandon the day, tomorrow, it will not see the immediate changes. It may take up to a century or more before things return. And I'm not just talking about the color of the water. I'm talking about the heavy metals that have leached into the soil. I'm talking about all the species that have died out, you know. I wouldn't say gone extinct, but let's say died out of those affected water bodies. It's going to take decades for old species or the resident species to return, because they've literally died off. So the system would have to reset literally, and then slowly, what we call in ecology, ecological succession will take place. Then the animals begin to return, or the organisms begin to return. And that is why it is urgent for us to manage this situation before we reach that point of no return, which we have literally pushed ourselves to. One thing I want to say is that the way we are approaching the Galamsey issue may not be the best, because we need urgent action. We need to stop it. But then we also need to find out why our youth are actually ignoring concerns from the for the environment to go into this. So yes, we can send in the military, we can prosecute, but if a hungry person, okay, sees that there's a mineral that is available readily and he can exploit and get his daily bread, he may throw all caution to the wind because he's thinking about survival. So the whole approach to the Galamsey fight should be multi-stakeholder, it should be multi-sectorial, and it is what we call, it should be what we are calling the ecosystem-based approach. So we bring all the people involved. Is it people with mining concessions? Is it the chiefs? Is it even the ASAFO companies? Is it the youth themselves? Is it the youth groups? Is it the immigration? Because now we are hearing that we have a lot of migrants.
That's right.
Also directly involved in Galamsey. So it's not a one-shot approach, say, okay, prosecute, ban the excavators. No, but we should go deeper, go down on the ground, meet the youth and say, okay, we are not going to arrest all of you, but why are you actually moving in? Then they let us know that, okay, it's because there is no job. It's because I need money to do this and the gold is lying there. Okay, how do we reorganize, inspect the licenses, make sure that we are only giving to people who can mine responsibly? Are there any training programs we can organize for the youth who are actively involved so that we train them on sustainable ways of mining? And then we give a time limit, say that, okay, we are going to train as many as XYZ people to mine sustainably. We build their capacity. And then after the capacity has been built, we say that, okay, now that everyone knows what they should do and what they shouldn't do, if you are now caught doing this, the sanctions will apply. I hope you understand the angle I'm coming from.
Certainly, certainly.
And then if we go down to the grassroots, so a lot of people are mining, they are in the mine pits. We have men and women and children mining, and they don't even know the health impacts of what they are doing, okay? Because it's just money, they're just seeing that it's mud, isn't it? If we are able to go down on the ground and educate them on the health impacts, we educate them on the ecological impacts of whatever it is they are doing, then we begin to see a gradual shift of perception and mindset that, oh, you know what, we are making the money, but at the end, we may not really benefit. So if we rather center and concentrate our efforts on the ground, those that are actually there eking out their daily bread may begin to have a change of mind. And all this also boils back to income. If we are able to empower them or we are able to re-strategize as a nation and give more viable employment opportunities, I am sure that there would be a gradual shift. As it is now, and because I teach in the university, we have students who actually work in the mining industry just to look for money to pay their fees. And it's a big headache because we have to sit them down and explain. And then they say, for example, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, one of my students said, Madam, if I don't do the Galamsey, I can't get my fees. And I asked him, well, what else could you do if the gold would disappear? And he says, well, I don't want to go back to farm in my hometown because, and it's World Earth Day, because of climate change impacts, the rainfall pattern has changed and the soil has become unproductive. So because of that, all the youth in his hometown have seen that farming is not an option for them anymore because the soil is no longer yielding. So they've all come down
So
south.
it's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. So when we're talking about a World Earth Day, we are talking about Galamsey. We need to find out what are the drivers, what is driving people. People are now saying that, okay, I plant my crops, they are not working. The plants are not, as in my harvest is so poor. And if there's mining and I can get 500 cedis a day or 1,000 cedis per day, I mean, why would he sit in his village and plant an unproductive season, right? If he's not getting any job to do and he can go ride Okada and shuttle the Galamsey workers to and fro, he's going to get that motorbike. So whilst we are taking these issues from top down and maybe going into the forest reserve, seizing the excavators and revoking licenses, we need to balance that effort with a grounds approach. We need to rededicate our efforts into working on the people who are actually in the pits. So we can't just tackle it from the licenses point of view, which is a conversation in the news this week. We need to go down and address the issue from the grassroots and involve, for example, the youth chiefs, the Asafo companies, the chiefs, and then the youth who are mining themselves, the women and men who are risking their lives in the pits with all the mercury and cyanide, with all the threat to the environment, and appeal to them as well as build their capacity. Let them know why this is not the right way to go. And that is the approach that we need right now. It's a multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder approach. The top-down it may not be the best solution.
Well, time check, it is some 21 minutes to the top of the hour, 12 noon. You're still live here on 3 Lounge on 3FM 92.7. We're speaking with Dr. Jemima Kasa on World Earth Day. We're wrapping up this conversation. Now, Doc, if you were to give my listeners some advice this morning, what small things or what small thing can every listener do today that would help protect our water bodies, even if they don't live near a beach or a river?
Thank you so much. So one big thing we can do in light of the fact that we are grappling with a plastic situation is to go out with a reusable container or ask for less plastic packaging today. So if you're moving with a backpack today and you are buying something that can fit into your backpack, if the vendor tells you, oh, me paucha rubber, or please get some polythene, you can just say, oh, I have my backpack, the rubber is okay. And just that will go a long way because a lot of these plastics will end up in the landfills, which or in our drains. And the hawker may just give you something in traffic and then just dispose of the plastic by the side of the road. So today, as a way of helping protect Mother Earth, can we just say no to at least one plastic packaging item and rather keep what we have and just use whatever bags we have on us? If we have to use any plastic today, let's please hold on to it until we get to a safe or designated disposal site and we dispose of it over there. Thank you.
Doc, very powerful words indeed. Thank you so much for lending us your time this morning. I know it's your hour day, so there's a lot of activity, I'm sure, in store for you on World Earth Day. And I'm sure this won't be the last engagement that you and I have, so we can shed some more light on this very worrying situation concerning planet Earth. Enjoy the rest of your day, Doc.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Again, that was Dr. Jemima Etonam Avonyo Kasa. She's an oceans expert and a fisheries scientist lecturer, Department of Biology Education at the University of Education, Winneba, speaking to us about World Earth Day and what you and I can do to preserve this ecosystem that is keeping us alive.